All right, everyone, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Oh, the voice is shot today. Boy, that live stream was fun last night. I had a good time, and I really appreciate everyone that came out and left comments and how interactive everyone was. I think it was a rousing success, personally. I'm already getting requests to do another one. But I personally think you don't want to do these too often. So I think one every 365 days is a good amount. I'm just joking. There were a lot of subscribers that were unable to attend, which I kind of felt bad about. So I will try to do another stream in the near future. I don't know when. Maybe a draft stream, maybe a free agent stream. I don't know, but we will try to do something. But you know what? Again, like I said, I really appreciate everyone stopping by, hanging out. It was a lot of fun. So that's, and again, I really appreciate everyone. So you know what? Let's get into Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has officially come out now and said that he wants to be traded. Now, this is kind of old new news because it was never honestly official really till yesterday. And he evidently has a list of teams that he is willing to go to that the Texans, must work within the parameters of, because he does have a no-trade clause in his contract. And I would assume that the Giants, because I believe the Jets are on that list, would be on that list as well outside of teams like Miami. And it's just one of those things. Do we really want to even entertain the option of trading for Deshaun Watson? My thing is, I personally, at the right price, would go after Mr. Watson. I would. But I also don't want to give the Texans a king's ransom and have Deshaun be in the same scenario that he was in Houston but in New York. You don't want to take away all of our assets for one player and still have the multitude of problems that we have. Now, I always think back to the Herschel Walker trade. I'm an old guy. Everyone knows that. I'm probably the oldest Giant YouTuber out there. But I remember the Herschel Walker trade. I mean, he went from the Cowboys to Minnesota. Minnesota got Herschel Walker, a third-round pick of Dallas, fifth-round pick from San Diego, and then I think it was a 10th-round pick of Dallas and a third-round pick of Dallas. But what Dallas got in return was 4 players in Jesse Solomon, David Howard, Isaac Holt, Alex Stewart. And then they got a Minnesota first, a Minnesota second, a Minnesota sixth, Minnesota first, a Minnesota second, Minnesota first, Minnesota second, Minnesota third. They rebuilt their entire organization off that trade. And it turned into a nightmare scenario for the Vikings. Also, the fact that the Vikings misused Herschel Walker exponentially. I mean, it's not even funny how they did not take you trade for a guy that's an I formation running back and you don't put him 7 yards behind the quarterback. I mean, come on. You don't build your offense towards him. But I'm not going to get into Herschel Walker trade because nobody cares. So what will the Texans be looking for? They're going to be looking for a multitude of first-round picks and probably a couple young players, young controllable players via contract-wise. So you immediately have to figure you're going to have to give at least this year's first-rounder and next year's first-rounder. I mean, that's without a question. You're going to have to give that if you're the Giants. And possibly you're going to have to give him the third first-round pick. You have to give him 3 first-rounders in a row. I mean, this isn't the NBA where the NBA was smart when teams just started trading, first-round picks now that you can't trade them in consecutive years. Sorry. So the NBA, the NFL doesn't have that. So you're going to need to at least throw in 3 first-round picks because Deshaun Watson, this is a rarity. How often does a quarterback of his caliber at his age and the fact that he's under contract for an extended period of time come on the market? And his cap number to the first season is going to be manageable. I think it's only like $10 million to the team that trades for him in season 1. And you could probably renegotiate the second half of his contract, the extension. So, cap number, and we could fit him into the cap, and then we have so much cap space in 2022. We could potentially have like $90 million. But you know what? We're not going to get that far ahead. But what else would the Texans want? Who would they want? And that's the thing. You have to look at, if you're the Texans, what players would you want from the Giants, in return? Now, here's my thing. They're probably going to want at least, I would say, 2 to 3 young players. So are you going to be willing to give up someone like Dexter Lawrence, who's under team control for about another 3 seasons? He's progressed. He's shown how athletic he can be. He's more than just a run stopper at the defensive tackle. He has more potential than that. He could, they would want him because he's a future Pro Bowler. Would you want to give that player up? They're going to be looking for a young quarterback. So you're going to have to, and you don't want to have Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones. So you're going to have to throw Daniel Jones into that mix. How high are they on Daniel Jones? I know the Texan organization, some of the Texas organization like Daniel Jones come out of the draft, but he hasn't, some may feel he has the potential, but is he a star caliber quarterback? That's to be decided. So do they want to take that risk with Daniel Jones, or do they want to look to draft a quarterback? And that's the other thing then to think of. And then you might, you're potentially going to have to give them Peppers on a 1-year rental. Because he's only 26 years old. He's only at a $6.7 million. He's in the final year of his contract. He's a young building piece for that defense. So are you willing to concede Peppers and say Xavier McKinney is going to take his spot? And then are you willing to have Logan Ryan and Xavier McKinney in your defensive backfield? And and then you think about it, they potentially may want someone like Xavier McKinney now that we talked about it. He only played in 6 games. Well, I would say mainly 4 games. The first 2 you don't really count. He was kind of eased into the lineup. But he was the top drafted safety last year. He's a fun guy to watch. He's got a huge upside. He had the game-winning interception in Week 17. He's also on a controllable rookie contract. So you're going to have to throw someone. You may potentially have to throw either Peppers. Think about it. You're going to have to either throw in Peppers, McKinney, or Dexter Lawrence into that mix. Now, I personally like to give them Evan Ingram. Chuck Evan Ingram on the deal because he's that 1 year. He's that 1-year rental. I don't think the trade value was there for him, considering he had 11 drops, which 6 interceptions when the ball was targeted to him. The only good thing about him is he's in the final year of his contract, but he is a talented player. And then maybe Houston's like, we could unlock the potential of Evan Ingram. We can make him better than he was. You know what? You can't really make him worse. So, as a Giant organization, are we willing to give up 3 number ones and potentially 2 to 3 players that are building blocks to the organization to go after and get a quarterback who will not have the surrounding talent he needs probably to be the quarterback even he was in Houston? Listen, Houston had a bad year last year, 4-12, and Deshaun Watson had a great season. But can he continue to replicate that on a bad team? And I think if you give away all these assets, you're just taking him from one bad situation to another bad situation. But that other bad situation is in a major sports market. You'll see he comes to New York even with the Jets. You will see Deshaun Watson everywhere. I mean, you will see his face on everything. From the billboards to a bottle of Heinz ketchup, he will be everywhere. But as the Giant organization, if you are going to dismantle what you have been building the last few years for one player, you need to make sure he has the surrounding pieces. So are you willing? And also, we don't have a plethora of draft picks this year. We're missing it. We're missing a 5th. We're missing. I don't remember that one. We're missing a draft pick. I don't know where that came from. So you have to remember, you have to think about this from the perspective of, as a Giant organization, is this going to turn into a nightmare scenario for us if we have to give up multiple young talent players? And that's what the Houstons are going to want. That's what I would want. I would want the first rounders and at least 2 young players who are under team controllable contracts. If you think the Giants are close to making the playoffs, if you think they were a quarterback play away from being a playoff team, yes, you make a trade offer. But if you think you are still a building organization and still a couple years away, you don't make the trade. I mean, the team that makes the most sense is Miami. Miami's got young assets. They can give them Tua. And because I think Tua's going to be a good quarterback in this league. I think Tua's got much more of an upside than Daniel Jones. I would like to go to Miami. If I had, no offense, guys, but if I was Deshaun Watson, I would want to go to Miami. If you ever lived on South Beach, I did. Forget about it. Forget about it. I'm telling you, I would be in Miami in a heartbeat. Why is my music kicking in? You know what? I'm all discombobulated from this live stream, but like I said, it was fun. But I don't think you can wreck or you can dismantle the Giant organization right now. Am I a believer in Daniel Jones? No, I've said this a million times. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. I believe we're going to be looking at a quarterback next year. But even if that's the scenario, a quarterback, you know what? And I'm thinking as I'm talking, I'm thinking about this. But a franchise quarterback is so hard to find. We got so lucky with Eli Manning. And I always think back to Ernie Accorsi when Ernie Accorsi talks about how he had to trade away John Elway when he was the Colts general manager. And he was forced to go out and get rid of Elway. And he hated that. He never wanted to do it. And he always said with Eli Manning, when you see a franchise quarterback and you can get a franchise quarterback, you go and get him. And they traded a lot of assets to get Eli just to move up. It's I don't. You know what? I'm talking about this. I'm trying to convince myself, and I'm trying not to convince myself at the same time. But I think if the price was right, I would do it. If we weren't giving up so much young talent, I would do it. But if we're looking at multiple picks and multiple young players that are going to strip this franchise of potential, I can't do it. I'm not into it. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could subscribe, if you could ring that bell thing, what that means, that'd be awesome.